In Nigeria, history was removed in our curriculum activities during the 29 and 2010 academic section. The removal of the history from primary to secondary schools in our curriculum was effective during that period. And for some reasons, Nigerian government and some persons are also given reasons why they removed that particular subject, all because they've seen that few jobs were available for history graduates during that time. And of course, for history teachers, they could not get many jobs to do at that point. And lamentably, Nigeria do not have the account of what happened in 1967 to 1970 Civil War, even in the history of our curriculum in schools. But 7 years after, the government decided to make things right by declaring by the Nigerian Education Research and Development Council to reintroduce history into our subject in 2018 and 2019 academic session. And of course, in 2018, the federal government unveiled a new curriculum which introduced history into all our schools. Now, the effect hasn't been felt properly, and why must we guide our history in our subjects and of course in our schools? That's what we're looking at on the program today. And joining us, yes, joining myself and Stephen on the program today is an educationist. And of course, we'll be looking at this together with us. His name is Mr. Azubike Okpala. Thank you so much, Azubike Okpala, for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much, and thank you, viewers.
All right. Stephen, I know you have a lot of questions for him, but let's kick off with this. In 2009 and 2010, this particular subject, that is history, was removed in our schools, in the academic curriculum. Why do you think that was done?
I think...
apart from the introduction I gave, why do you think that was actually done?
I think there are some other factors. You've said some, like students not being interested in history. And another aspect is government shying away from people knowing history. Like the Nigerian Civil War. A lot of people believe government wants to bury that history so that people don't get reminded of it. But I don't think it's a good thing, because people have to know their history to avoid making mistakes in the future. I think a good knowledge of history can prevent us making mistakes, the same mistakes we made in the past in the future.
Amazing. Well, if you don't know where you're coming from, you might not know where you are going to. Stephen, you have a question.
So we said the place of history in our national life. How important is history? Is it really, do we really need history in our life?
Why not? We really need history. Now, history imbibes nationalism and patriotism in the citizens.
But some people will say some of the courses covers what you study in history,
yes,
like government.
It covers, but that's partly. But when you want to talk about a whole realization of what history can give to Nigerians, you have to bring out history as a single course and let people study it wholly, the way it was done during the 60s and pre-colonial era. But now, today, history is found in civic, it's found in social studies, but it's not enough. History is supposed to be a course of primary school level, making it age appropriate for primary school, secondary school, and then in the university as a full course. So I think history should be given that attention in Nigeria.
Well, a lecturer of legal history at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ife, Dr. Akin Alo, he said something. He says, a country without a sense of history is a soulless country.
A country without a history, that's very true.
It's a soulless country.
A soulless country.
So let's look at the importance of history. Now, Nigeria, the government, and of course, they've reintroduced history back into our system now.
Yes.
How do you think this will affect our country effectively in guiding, our young minds and of course the adults, the growns, towards getting it right as a country?
And now, if you look at Southeast, the youth in Southeast, especially the IPOP, some of these young people have no sense of history. They were given history by parents told them what happened, and some of them are not true. Some of them are exaggerated. But then, if Nigeria plans a curriculum where history is given to us strategically, then we will not have people bringing out. What happens when there is a vacuum, when there is no history? It is filled. The vacuum is filled by fallacies, lies, and so many other things. Even ignorance. People form myths and fill the space. So that's why it will be important for Nigeria to map out the curriculum and dish it out to schools so that it will be properly organized. And these young people that were not there when those things happen will not get wrong information from other places so that they can get the right information.
Amazing. Well, you know, while mentioning, while talking about that, it reminds one of xenophobia in South Africa. Most people have also, you know, questioned the fact of history, and of course that's why it's causing those chaos in South Africa. The impact Nigeria, the effort Nigeria and other countries made, you know, during the struggle of South Africa to get independence.
Exactly.
Most of the young people
and South Africans
do not
know that, yes.
Yeah.
That xenophobia wouldn't have
will not have
happened.
happened.
Yes.
Right, let's look at, I know you have another question, but let's look at the types of history that we have. You know, we have political history, we have diplomatic history, we have cultural history, we have social history, economic history, and of course intelligent history.
I think religious too.
Religious will also be part of it.
Yes.
You know, different types of history. Now, which one do you think we should, you know, really lay more emphasis on as we, you know, project into new Nigeria that
I think all of them are very important, but the cultural history should be given a very good place. It should be prioritized because people have to know their culture, especially after the colonial times. A lot of African countries lost part of their culture, but with history, you can remember that at a point they said Africa doesn't have any written history, and therefore should not be mentioned. But some professors, Nigerian professors and some other African professors have proven this wrong because they had to dig deep, brought out those oral histories that our parents used to tell us. That's the way of African. We might not have documented it, but we have parents, old people who are still alive, giving us oral history. And these histories now have started being documented. Yes, so nobody can from anywhere say that Africa doesn't have history.
All right. Okay, let's take it from there. Most of the history that we study, we are written by foreigners.
Okay.
Is there any way we can change that?
It's quite funny because the history of Nigerian Civil War, you can't get enough information in it in Nigeria. You get more in British libraries and American libraries. Even foreigners know our history more than us. So I think it's high time we brought back our history back to our people. Have cultural centers that we can go to. Our museums, some of them are almost empty. If you go to museums, you see a few things there. Meanwhile, we are supposed to be very rich. Thank God some of our artifacts are being brought back to Nigeria. And I believe if we keep it up like that, we will get back to where we are supposed to be.
Well, you know, indeed, if you keep it up like that, we get back to where we're supposed to be. I'm concerned about, you know, different accounts when it comes to history, you know, like you already said, oral history is part of it. But please trust me, I didn't mention all the types of history. You can also add to that. We have scientific, we have technological, and many others. In fact, modern day, early days, all histories, they're all part of the history. So you don't quote me wrong. But let's look at the accounts. You know, for some reasons, we've had different accounts, even while we're in school. You know, different accounts of Newton, you know, different accounts of even in different countries or different communities.
Exactly.
They tell you this particular God, when it came to this was the way it ascended or descended, and you hear another story account from another particular person, and you just want to, you know, measure it and say which one is correct. So how do you get the facts right and not, you know, disseminate false you know, historical background?
I will use an instance of the synoptic gospels in the account in the Bible about the life of Jesus Christ. Yeah. Now you see what happened there. There were a lot of accounts, but during the canonization of the Bible, what they did was check for the ones that have similar accounts, similar stories. Reports. That are not different. There were some others that were removed during the canonization of the books, and they selected the ones that are uniform in their stories, in the narration that they made. And I think that's the same way we can do in Nigeria. We can, from different accounts, if any story has different accounts, we check the ones that are more uniform, and we can pick those ones, and the other ones can be set aside.
Well, amazing indeed, and we know that people like us will also be part of these particular projects because documentary or documentation is
Yes.
critical when it comes to history. Before Azubike leaves, I know you want
Yeah, I
some
have
final
one more question for you.
Okay.
We've been talking about the essence of history in our national life, and we remember when we were discussing before now, history was an elective course, elective subject in the secondary school in those days.
Yes.
But looking at the importance, don't you think, or do you subscribe that history should be made compulsory for every student?
It should be made compulsory from primary. That's why I said age appropriate. From primary to the secondary, and then in the university, even if you're not studying history, you should have a GST course for other people, science students and other humanitarians, that they will study till they leave the school. Then we should have Department of History. The way you said you read history. So I think we should have it and put more effort so that we can imbibe this nationality and patriotism in the citizens, so that we can be like Americans, proud of our country. And what do you think give America that kind of pride? Is because they know their history.
Yes.
And they are proud of their history.
And God bless Nigeria indeed. Anyway, you know, one we want to just wonder when you have a political or politicians that cannot even recite the national anthem effectively,
it's quite
and
funny.
you want to expect them to also know the history of the country or the political history. Indeed, it's worrisome and it's funny. But hey, we just must get it right. That is what we're talking about. And the sources of your history is critical, is important. We need to give facts out. Thank you so much, our educationist, and of course our guest on the program, Mr. Azubike Okpala. Thank you so much for being part of the story. Well, before you go, I know you want to tell Nigerians some historical facts. Do you?
What I can say is election is coming, and we can do better by selecting good leaders in our country.
I was expecting that we should repeat what happened in 19. Maybe that would be historical. All right, thank you once again for being part of the program today. It's the Breakfast Show. We'll go for a short break. When we return, yes, the recipe continues, and of course, all the programs continues on the show. Stay with us, please.